Hello, welcome to Fitness Without Filter podcast. We're on audio and video again. I'm Richard Porfret, and today I'm talking to Pete Howard. Pete is a PT of a decade plus experience. He's had a worldwide, literally, experience of rugby, participating in the WWE world, boxing, and a lot more besides. And we're going to have a really interesting conversation today about all kinds of topics. So, Pete, over to you, buddy. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, I think you covered a bit of me there. Yeah, Pete Howard. I'm from Exeter in Devon. 32 years old. Obviously, yeah, heavy background in sport and personal training is what I'm doing for a profession. And yeah, along the way, been able to help teach some personal trainers. Passionate about yeah, well-being in general, sports performance. Obviously, been a part of my I studied at Bath University, did a foundation degree in sports performance and applied sport and exercise studies. So just been yeah, part of my background, really kind of learning a lot through sport informally as well, and then kind of learning as I go and adapting and helping people with what I've learned along the way. I guess it's kind of yeah on the spot, but yeah, that's me. Yeah,
That's awesome. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so first things first, because
sure.
I know you're in fight camp right now. How's in prep for? I think you're 7, 8 weeks away from fight.
Yeah, 7 weeks today. That's it.
7 weeks today.
Yeah,
How's your
yeah,
camp going?
yeah. I think it's going okay. We'll see in 7 weeks, but yeah, it's one of the things like when you're this far out, it's just as long as I'm healthy. I think a lot of people could relate if they're in a similar environment. You just have good days and bad days. You just keep chipping away.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm actually very fit, healthy, relatively pain free.
Good.
So yeah, relatively, and yeah, so I'm actually in a really good headspace to get some good work done. But it doesn't really start to get serious in terms of sparring and stuff until about 4 weeks out. Can kind of tune up quite quickly. So it's just kind of like easing into it, not doing too much too soon. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm kind of at that place where everything's just being managed well. So yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place with it.
Good. All right.
And
Pleased to hear it.
yeah.
So sorry, but um, so going back to your younger days,
Hmm.
were you mad into sport to then come to a place of going into England college level rugby, or is it something that came about during the course of being at school?
Um, yeah, I think I started playing football at quite like a young age at like 6, and I loved that. Um, I first got introduced to rugby at the age of about 9. I was an exceptionally large kid.
Hmm.
And one of my mates' dad said to my mum, "I'd be really good on a rugby pitch." I think I was one of those. I was like 11 stone at 11, 14 stone at 14, already like 6'1" at that age as well, and
Hmm.
just a large child. Um, and yeah, yeah, for me actually, from like the age of 12 or 13, I was kind of doing all of the sports at school, and then I'd come home from school and do like 3, 4, 5 mile run 3 times a week just off my own back because I wanted to be fit. And um, yeah, I've always had that extra sort of drive, I guess. So yeah, things just kind of developed, and my dad was a good athlete actually back in his heyday. He was a javelin thrower at national level. So I picked up a discus in year 8, 13, and kind of threw it about 10 meters further than the rest of the class, and kind of honed in on that and competed at English schools throughout schools and college and won medals with that as well, which actually got me kind of in tune with movement and the eye for movement. I think which would really help with my coaching later on. So yeah, I was one of those kids that kind of did all the sports I could, and it was mainly this rugby in the winter and then athletics in the summer though. Kind of like business end of what I was
Yeah.
doing. But yeah, always, if I could get a day off school to do anything, I'd put my hand up for that sport. I was one of those, and say, yeah, always really involved with it. Absolutely. Yeah,
And that moved into higher level rugby in your sort of like teen years and older.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah, I went to Loki here at St. Peter's School and then moved into Exeter College and remember kind of getting out of like did the sort of county thing with rugby and then the Exeter College. I still do run the alongside a BTEC, do a like the rugby academy here, which is now like the Chiefs Academy. And you got asked to do this was it advanced apprenticeship in sporting excellence? I think it was the ACE program it's known as.
Yes.
So I just got tracked onto that MVQ. And it just played rugby throughout college, and it lived that kind of professional structure, if you like. And then it got to like second year, and like one of the guys that was a year older than me was like, "You should probably play England colleges next year." And it was kind of got fixated on that, so I dropped Chiefs Colts in my second year of Colts rugby, if you like, the kind of 18-year-old part of it,
Hmm.
second year of it, and just to focus on that, I want to play England, blah blah blah, and gone and got it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those. So yeah, fantastic time of my life. I think was just when you look back, and because you kind of got all the good things of the dynamics of college and stuff, but your mum's still doing your washing before you go to
Yeah.
uni and stuff. You know, what I mean, everything's sort of like there. If you look back, oh, they were good days. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like learned a lot from that. Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously went off to uni, like just like with the rugby background from college, I managed to get into Bath University. I wasn't particularly bright. I always said like I chose sport over a classroom any day of the week, but it got me through
Hmm.
to get onto the foundation degree in sports performance at Bath, and I was playing up in the Booster Premiership there, and yeah, it's just a good time looking back on it. But yeah, with me and rugby, kind of I got to sort of 22. I was kind of impatient when it came to rugby because I got there as a fresher, and I'd always seemed to have got to places quite quickly when I applied myself, and it was kind of I got there and I was playing number 8, 6 or 8. That was kind of my position, and I had a freak of a number 8 South African guy there, and he was like 17 stone, running 100 meters like in sub 11. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
God.
really, just
Jesus
genetic
Christ.
freak. Yeah, an absolute like wrecking ball of a guy. So obviously, I got put 8 as a second team for my first year, and I was very impatient. I was playing some local. I think I was in Southwest One playing for Oldfield Old Boys, it was a local team to Bath. Then I was playing sort of Saturday, and it just did something for me. Like after a while, and there's all the other things going on at university as well, with like the drinking culture and everything else, just kind of slipped away from it a little bit.
Hmm.
Always loved going to the gym and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, something just changed for me. I feel like kind of rugbyed out, and there's a lot of the politics. Like, I felt like it was politics. Maybe it was just me being resentful and impatient. I think probably
Right.
more of that. Now I'm grown up,
Yes. Yeah. Got
like
you.
more grown up. Um, yeah, if I'd been a bit more patient, maybe I could have made it there. But obviously, other things have happened, and you can't regret your journey. It's just chapters in the book at the end of the day. So yeah, it was at like sort of last year of uni. It was 2012 Olympics. I was 22, coming on 23, and I remember just watching the discus in London, and thinking like, I haven't thrown for a while. Maybe I should just pick up a discus because obviously Bath University, they've got the sports training village there. I don't
Yes.
know if
Yeah.
you've been there. It's just an amazing complex. Like just to go and see and be part of. And a lot of the GB teams are based out of their UK sport, all that kind of stuff. It's a real hub for training, and you actually had the real benefit of having an indoor throw circle there, so I could throw all winter without getting wet,
Hmm.
muddy, freezing cold. Can you imagine throwing metal discus outside in December here? It's not nice. So yeah, I knuckled down and I thought, right, I'm going to sack in rugby for the last year and have a real go at that. And I was getting my discus up over sort of 50 meters my first season. I won the senior regionals, with a view in the second year to go to nationals, um, which was how long it was going to take, really. And I think that kind of a few things happened after uni. Didn't get a job in the university gym that I wanted to. That's what I did for my last year of placement, my first gym job, really. I mean, let's talk about PT and that alongside it. So, like, yeah, I did a like 240-hour placement at Bath University in the sports training village gym. Went fantastically, and then I stayed over in the summer, um, and did some extra work. Applied for a full-time job, which I didn't get, and then ended up just moving to London on a whim with
Right.
it was kind of a spontaneous decision with a girl I was with at the time. Um, and yeah, that kind of led to the next chapter, I guess, which was
Right.
kind of
Which
stagnant
I
for a
must
while.
admit, it's pretty unique.
Yeah. And it all really kind of stems from that spontaneous decision to move to London because I don't think I would have been in the right place at the right time. Like I said, to progress on to what came next, because I moved
Mm.
to London. We had to get a flat. I lied to the tenant, no, sorry, to the landlord. I was the tenant. I lied to the landlord. I was like, yeah, I've got a strength and conditioning placement with Harlequins Rugby Club. And she said, oh, yeah, I've got something with a lawyer's firm. We didn't have any jobs. We just like, yeah, of course we've got jobs, fine. We'll find something. And it was really mad because I remember I'd been there 3 weeks and still hadn't got a job. And I must have applied to about 20 gyms. And I remember I was training at a place called Physical Culture in Putney.
Right.
Really nice, amazing gym. And I remember just going in one morning and just like thinking, what have I done? Because then nothing was working out. And I remember breaking down in tears in the gym mid session. And my phone pinged. I got an email from Soho Gyms saying, hey, we saw your application as a fitness instructor, la, la, la. Would you like to come in for an interview? Which, it's like, wow, like God's timing sort of thing. And went and did that, got myself a job as a fitness instructor, did 3 months there. Fast forward a bit down the line, and they had a gym that opened in Farringdon in central London, and a personal trainer role came up there. Perfect. And then kind of bouncing between both gyms. And all I was really doing in London, like, I didn't really have many friends. I mean, I did, but I was just literally just working and training, and like still with the ethos I was going to push my discus. Managed to
Hmm.
find. I used to go down to Crystal Palace and throw down there. Everything was just a mission in London, because you don't, like, everything's tube and bus. If you don't have a car, it's there's so much time traveling, etc. And May rolls around, and I'm doing all right. I mean, in training, I was throwing like 55, 60, 56 meters. So Olympic qualifying is like 60, 64. So I was like well over halfway where I needed to be within 18 months. But, it's just a question mark anyway, you know what I mean? And one of my friends just said, hey, like, I've got a wrestling tryout at the O2. Is it all right to come and stay at your place? Because I was living in Putney. And so yeah, sure, sort of thing. We used to train together and hang out. This guy was like 6'8" and like 19 stone shredded, like a just general. I called him Uncle Tank. That was
Right.
his name growing up. He was my Uncle Tank because he was a literal tank of a man. And yeah, we went to the O2, and it was a WWE tryout, and it was one of those things. I messaged the night before. I just said about my background with rugby and athletics, what I was trying to achieve, and I got a email back from the head of talent development and stuff. Said, yeah, sure, just bring some athletic gear. We'll see how you move and go from there. And they happened to be looking for an English guy that was like, didn't quite look English. That's what they said. And that was it. Because I was just kind of going to the gym in the morning, doing my weights, my PT, going home, sleeping, getting up, going back to the gym, doing PT, doing my cardio in the evening. That's all I was doing day in, day out. So in terms of like the fitness stuff, the movement stuff, again, discus, like I got really flexible and like just working on my movement, doing loads of,
Hmm.
yeah. So like it just in terms of just a general tryout, and WWE tryouts are notoriously hard. But I just smashed it.
Right.
And I was just able to pick up some things quite quickly, like, just, yeah, and obviously stood out. It was just right place, right time, right shape, etc. And they said at the end of the first day, like, come back tomorrow. And I think I cut my elbow taking some bumps in the ring or something. And he took me to the first aid guy and to the doctor, so they had there, and was like, so how do you fancy moving to Florida? And I was like, I was 23 years old. PT was actually taking off in London. I was doing all right. But again, like 23, WWE, do you want to come and train with us and just have a go? Absolutely,
Yeah, of course you're going to say
start a
yes.
sequence of events. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be crazy not to, right? So yeah, it's one of those things where, I watched it growing up. I wouldn't say I was like an avid fan, but I've learned a lot about wrestling, and still like keep tabs on it now. But again, like another significant chapter in my life. So
Hmm.
yeah, that rolled around. May 2014 was the tryout, and I got out there in April 2015. It was just the start of April.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that was crazy. So, yeah, that's the next
So,
bit, really.
what's it like living in Florida in your early 20s in the WWE training setup? Because that's a really niche environment to be in. You've gone from college and university level rugby to discus to wrestling for sports entertainment. That's a big departure.
Yeah, it's a completely different culture, really. I mean, you can talk about just America in general and how it is, but actually that set was it was kind of very strange, to be honest. Like, it was one of those things like pinch me, don't get me
Right.
wrong, like, so I went out for a medical in December. They flew us out to Orlando for 3 days, and then we went to Pittsburgh to actually do our medical up there. But I'm in the office with the guy, Cannon Seaman, and he's like, they're just like scanning our passports and doing all the paperwork. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to introduce you to Paul, who's Paul Levesque, if you don't know, is Triple H.
Hmm.
So he was going to be my boss. So I walked around the corner, and Triple H is stood a meter in front of me. And like, the first time that happened, you're like kind of starstruck, you know what I mean? He's
Hmm.
like, went to say my name, and I was like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a real surreal moment, and that kind of that happened a lot. Because obviously with the performance center that, I mean, Triple H kind of constructed to find and refine the kind of the feeders up to WWE, and also use as a base if anyone was injured on the main roster, or if anyone needed to really like work on character development and to like restructure their own individual brands, they could go there and practice and have that professional setup, because they were in Tampa before in just like an old warehouse. But he got this amazing setup with like 5 rings in a big room, a special like aerial ring that's all kind of cushioned that you can practice all the aerial drills from, state of the art gym, physiotherapy suite, all in one place, green rooms for promos, etc. It's just unbelievable, man. Yeah, it was just yeah, a lot of those like holy shit moments, really, where you're meeting a lot of your idols.
Hmm.
And when I got there, they had Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Like, if you follow wrestling, like through the 80s, him and Ric Flair had a lot of kind of to and fro, or like the main talkers in the game. And he was a guy that was head of promos, or talent communications, they called it. So we go to, Wednesday afternoon, you're sat there with WWE Hall of Fame teaching you how to talk. And it's just, yeah, unbelievable. He sadly passed away quite soon after we got there, maybe 2 months in. Um, and then, I remember being at his funeral, where everyone from NXT got invited to that, and it was like a who's who of WWE that was there, and it was just absolutely unreal. That's when I met the Undertaker, um,
Right.
and that was another moment where I just couldn't really speak. It was like, you're a legend. That's all I could pretty much muster up. There's a big culture in pro wrestling where if you don't know someone, you got to them, shake your hand, and introduce yourself. They're very like formal on that. But yeah, just unreal, man. I actually spent a lot of my time out there injured. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's the only reason I'm back here, because I don't think I was the best pro wrestler, to be honest, in terms of the actual ring stuff that I got. I just didn't
Hmm.
take to it naturally. Probably needed a bit longer. Could have done with maybe doing some before I went out there. But they told me not to, because I might learn bad habits. But
Right.
if I could live again, but I can't. So I spent a lot of time injured out there. But what I did take from that, as someone that came in as a PT and a bit of background in sports massage and kind of anatomy, physiology, all that kind of stuff, was actually just working with the physios and just watching them, because I tore my hip flexor about 8 or 9 weeks in. Um, and then in my first singles match, I did a battle royale. My first singles match was a house show at the performance center. Separated my shoulder, took a clothesline, and yeah, again, I didn't land properly. It's my fault. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But yeah, so I spent a lot of time just kind of listening in on rehabilitation, mobility techniques, all that kind of stuff, which actually I used a lot of when I came back to build my business,
Right.
So there's no such thing as wasted work,
Yeah.
this was getting paid to be there, getting paid, taking all this amazing stuff, but still found the hard bits, even I was able to take good things from them, you know. But yeah, kind of general day there. You get in and do ring work in the morning for a couple of hours. A lot of it would be quite repetitive, and especially being new, it was just teaching you how to roll, teaching you how to fall, putting together basic spots. Go for lunch, a bit of gym after lunch. And you do that from Monday through Friday. But then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you do. They took over the Florida FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling Circuit. So that's basically where the trainee WWE guys go out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Everyone goes out, takes a truck. We all set up the ring ourselves. So it's literally like we put on the show and strip
Right.
everything down when it's done. So it's just kind of like the guys would do on the indie scene.
Hmm.
Um, and learn the craft. So it's in terms of the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there was a lot of traveling around Florida. So like, it's not just like Monday to Friday living like an athlete. It's like, okay, so you finish at like 2 on a Friday. You might have to drive 3 hours to Jacksonville from Orlando, set up the show, do the show, finish at 10 o'clock, take everything down, get back to Orlando about 1 a.m. And then you got to do something else again on Saturday, just a bit. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of
Yeah,
like, you could
full on.
feel a lot of respect for those guys, the amount of traveling that they have to do, and just like working. I was so blessed, and almost like, a lot of people would work for 10. I was in the right place at the right time to get that contract. And a lot of people would work driving around the country, driving around Europe, driving around America, like doing all that traveling, all that hard stuff. You don't just go straight in, and it was just, yeah, yeah, it was just an incredible twist of fate, I guess, how I got there,
Mhm.
and I did. So yeah,
It's interesting hearing you say that it was the course of you having a few injuries that led you to really focus and pay attention to the physiotherapy, rehabilitation staff, and how they applied their, learning and physiology and everything else. Because that's pretty much what stemmed my interest in that whole genre of what I do.
yeah,
The injuries I had during my military career. It's okay, right? Okay, I've got to spend months in hospital recovering from this, and guess what? I'm spending all of my time doing. Dealing with the physiotherapist, the hydrotherapist, the sports therapist, the occupational therapist. It's just boom, 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 boom all the time. And it just basically fueled that part of my brain to want to know all about this. Because the way I saw it at the time, maybe the same as yourself, I'm not sure, but I thought the more that I learn here, I may take a tenth of it into my future career because I already knew what I wanted to do when I left the military. But I need to pay attention to all of it because I don't know what percentage I'm going to use.
mm,
So I just
sure,
absorb, 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 be a sponge, take it all in.
yeah, yeah. That's it. I mean, a lot of the stuff really for me was, I mean, I find that in the States. I mean, at the time when I was there, they were kind of a few years ahead
Hmm.
of what I was seeing here. It was just like basic things, like, and I know that it's everywhere now, but if you go back 10 years, like people using like bands for stretching, and to just manipulate joints, and create distractions and things to help with impingements, and just doing like a basic like banded hip flexor stretch just to help open more. And like, remember coming home and doing it, and I was like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, it's just little things like that as well. It didn't need to be, I just found that coming home, having watched those guys, and just applying basic prehab mobility stuff um, you seem to be ahead of most personal trainers here.
Right.
That was my kind of take home from it, really.
Hmm.
And
But I
just,
mean, it says a lot about you as a trainer, not to blow smoke up you, but the fact that you took all that in to go, right, I know I can apply this when it comes to dealing with the general population.
yeah,
You took away all of that knowledge and went, I can use this rather than just do it yourself and go, well, I've forgotten it now.
yeah, that's true. And I think like that just kind of stemmed again, like, I mean, I've said anything I could do to get out of class, and like I went to uni, just played rugby and spent time in the gym, like academically, like I could have applied myself better, but I see myself more as a doer. And I was able to, like, being about at Bath Uni, training around Olympians a lot, being able to take a lot from that kind of stuff, and just like working with different S&C coaches. What's worked for me? Okay, well, my body is actually put together pretty much like everybody else's to a point.
Hmm.
Like, we have the same structure, right? Um, so what feels good? What works? What's most effective? Especially, and with general population guys, what's coming in generally is, weak areas, tight areas, just due to postural things, which is fairly generic. You
Yeah.
can apply a structure to, around the hips, shoulders, all that kind of stuff, and just find like the most effective plugin, and just take the best bits from everybody I work with to build your own philosophy. I think it works in any trade,
Hmm.
right? And you can kind of get the gist of that. Yeah, and just like, I mean, a lot of the blueprint I use for working, like, to improve, I think helping, doing a bit of Pilates and yoga alongside, as I did that discus, I came,
Hmm.
big muscle bound back rower to having to be more like a ballet dancer in the discus, like more balletic and ballistic, I should say. Um, it was, yeah, learning just the plugins around, pelvic floor, glute movement, mid upper back, how to open things up. breaking it down to basics, and what really helped me work with elderly people in particular,
Hmm.
just to build, like, to recalibrate the body, to get connected with the right areas, that tend to, the mind muscle kind of tends to distance themselves as we get
Sure.
older. And if we're not using it, we're losing it, right? So how to just sort of like recalibrate people and get them in tune, get them confident, get them balanced, and then from there we can get them stronger and start snowballing things like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, just the implementation of very simple structure stuff around basic Pilates, pelvic floor work, your dead bugs, your hip bridges, working out from there, and just learning how those things should feel properly. I think that's a big art of coaching as well, like teaching people how things should feel. You can look at a picture, send them the program, but how does it feel? And like really
Yes.
kind
Yeah.
of tune in with people on that on an internal basis. How does that feel to you? It's very big on that as well. Um, yeah, yeah,
It's interesting that you've moved on to exactly the kind of avenue I was going to take you down, actually. So you've gone and done a year in the States, and you come
yeah.
back and you throw yourself back into being a PT and therapy and everything else.
Mm.
Was it a deliberate move on your part to pick up what we call special population clients? Which is, for those of you not in the PT world listening or watching this, which tends to cover a big group covering the young, the elderly, the infirm, all that kind of group, the non-gen pop. Did you deliberately seek out senior clients, or did you find that you started working with a few and word got out? Because that's how it worked with me. I started taking on a couple, and all of a sudden word spreads. Hey, here's someone who doesn't want to kill 20-year-olds. He's prepared to work with us.
Yeah. Funny story. So we moved to London. I've obviously just said, I had to lie to our landlord saying that I had a strength and conditioning internship with Harlequins Rugby Club. Our
Yeah.
landlord, comes out of the door and she's hobbling on a walking stick.
Right.
Um, Start talking to her, and she's had a brain tumor, had it removed. She's been struggling with her movement, her mobility, etc. She has epilepsy. She went to a physiotherapist on the NHS, I think it was an NHS. They ended up overloading her. She had a seizure. She lost her confidence in it. She asked me, "Is there anything I could do to help?" Day one. So this is just, snowball of things. It's one of those
Hmm.
things like, okay, like, think about it rationally. And then I go to a house. We decided it's one of those things that actually my first PT client in London. And I come from Exeter and then Bath and then moving to London. She's like, "Oh, how much do you charge?" And I was like, oh, felt like bad asking for a lot of money because I never really earned more than 15, £20 an hour. So I just
Hmm.
said to her, "Oh, I charge £30 an hour," and felt bad asking for that. At
Right.
that age, which obviously PT in London, as we know, is most people know it's a lot more than that, and I'll be charging a lot more than that now anyway. But so anyway, Mrs. K, bless her, and we got to work, and the main thing with her was it was the real basic kind, and it lit me up, man, because it was like I grew up in a care home. I'll go back to this, like the way I get I think a sense of empathy and why I think I'm driven for this. So my mum ran a care home that I lived in with a couple of Down syndrome ladies, a blind lady with learning difficulties as well. So I have a big background around that kind of area,
Right.
and just instantly felt the need to help this woman. And just again, rationally, her goal was if she fell over, to be able to get back up herself without having to call an ambulance. Do you know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
Real basic need. So the
Sure.
idea
Yeah.
was, let's get her up to the sofa and show her how to get up, and she can get up by herself. She wasn't at that point, so it was like kind of get down on the floor, do some basic floor work, basic chair squats for leg strength, loads of stretching and mobility just to open things up, just on a passive basis to start with. Um, um, and we got there quite quickly in terms of that first goal. This
Hmm.
lady obviously has a group of friends.
Of course.
And bearing in mind that that £30 an hour, Mrs. K is a multi-millionaire. So all of a sudden I'm going over to Wimbledon, different parts of London, but I'm now getting like £80 an hour. Do you know, I just
Right.
told them told them that you got this. I'm going like to Regent's Park and places like that. So actually the kind of core base of my clientele were women over 70, and just going privately and not even in the gym, do you know what I mean? And just going to different parts of London, just do an hour here, an hour there. And then I had my core group of PT stuff, from Central and Clapham as well. So that really, and it was just doing the basic well. It was basically like going around doing some Pilates, doing some stretching and having a cup of tea and just
Hmm.
being a bit of a social, you know what I mean? just being there for a bit of a chit chat, and obviously, gaining that trust, and just and as it should be for any trainer, just making sure that people feel better when they leave than when they came. You know what I mean? We
Yes.
don't have to kill people, So yeah, and that I learned so much doing that, and it automatically just lit me up, man. Just lit me
Hmm.
up, like, to the point where, like, just giving people the basic, like, just being able to take her outside without a walking stick and go down the road and back for 50 meters, which she hadn't done for years. Repeated something very similar. Had a client called Sheila, sadly passed away last year of cancer. Hit me quite hard, actually, because I was with her for 5 or 6 years. But she came in, I think, with me at 83, and she passed away at 89. She ended up being like a second grandma to me, man. Like,
Right.
she had that. So I'd go around and make her lunch and stuff and stay a bit longer. And, you know, it's God's work, man. And, like, people work so hard all their lives. And, like, I think when we get over, the age of 70, like, it's, people kind of end up kind of shelling up. I can't do this because, and then, people do less and less and less. And then obviously, obvious culprits like sarcopenia, you're losing muscle mass anyway. You're against the clock. So if you don't stimulate your body, you're never gonna sort of um be able to do the things you want to do at the only time you have. Well, most people seem to have the time in their life. You
Right.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, once you're retired, you should be enjoying life, not just
Just running out the clock because you're in
that's
pain. Your
it.
quality of life's impaired.
That's it. They're riddled with arthritis and everything else. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just God's work, man, and I love it. I'd absolutely love it. Just seeing people grow in confidence. And I think it's kind of breaking down the taboo where, like, I think, women at any age, I think it's getting better. Like, how the effects of strength training and resistance training could be so beneficial. I mean,
Yes, very much
the
so.
younger you start, the better, really. You know what I mean? But trying to get can be quite intimidating for, like, any female, any age, or even for some men to get into the gym space. But actually, having that breakdown of getting people, even, I've got the garage that I use for a couple of people, going to doing some home visits, and then trying to get them in to come and load up, in the gym is obviously the end goal, because then you get the
Hmm.
social aspect of it as well. And it's never that terrifying, is it? It's just sort of breaking down the boundaries as you go. But yeah, man. Yeah. That's it's a really passionate part of what I'm about, working with the elderly, especially because they teach you things, because
Yes.
they're
Yeah. Yeah. I
experienced
mean,
as well.
it's
You know.
I've seen it, and I'm sure you have. That there are certain people that come into the rehab, therapy, fitness space, not necessarily knowing what they want to do,
Yeah.
but they don't ever expand their base of knowledge. So everyone that comes their way, regardless of age or ability, they're going to do the same stuff with.
Mm.
And you see, like you said, if you're passionate and you've got the ability to focus on different things, you can look to special populations and you can contribute to quality of life. And sometimes, like you said, it's just the basics. Help them stand, help them move without pain, without a walking stick. But like you said, I think sometimes with confidence, it's not just the potential client, it's the trainer
Hmm.
is afraid because they'll see the woman who's 6 months post delivery. Oh shit, how do I train a woman who's just had a kid? How do I train someone who's 50 years older than me?
Yeah.
And it's got to be the correct connection going on. And sometimes you don't have to program the Einstein of training.
No,
Help
no,
someone
no,
stand up straight.
no, no. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, just address, yeah, but beauty and simplicity. Find beauty and
Hmm.
simplicity. Yeah, with anyone you work with, really. Yeah, and that connection, and what you said about that kind of fear, anxiety, like, when it rolling back to when I was 23 and had Mrs. K in London, I had the qualifications, man, but I was like, "Whew, this is quite a serious, list of things you got going on. Like, okay, well, we'll give this a go. But just take it back
Sure.
to basics. You know what I mean? And yeah, you create that connection. Trust needs to be built,
Hmm.
definitely. It comes just from rapport, and and but with, a lot of people, if a lot of people in that bracket, like, a little bit of stimulus goes a long way. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, like you say. It doesn't need to be the Einstein of training programs. Just do the basic things that you think is going to help the balance, the posture. Like, are you just sitting upright with your shoulders back and your chest up? Like, most old people are like, oh, like this, and and then you pull their shoulder back and go, no, like this, and they go, oh,
Yes. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like kyphosis is kicking in, and, like, you know, yeah, just working through basic positions and postures, and it's just it's fun work.
Hmm.
really is.
So I'm gonna take you in a bit of a promotion aspect because I know you're a good trainer. I know you've got this big heart and you work with the senior population.
Yeah.
You do work with neurodivergent teenagers, okay?
Yes. Yes.
And I'm going to let you expand on that. What got you into working with that population of potential clients? Because it's not a common client base.
Yeah. Sure.
What got you to them, and how do you go about working with teenagers in that category that aren't the typical
Sure.
normal client?
Sure. I'll try and keep the story fairly short, but I basically set up a business called the Mind Muscle Connection Project
Hmm.
with my friend Sam Harris. So Sam specializes in working with neurodivergent teenagers, helping families with crisis interventions, going into schools, doing counseling with them, helping them cope with life in essence, and
Right.
do better and get what they want, I guess. So me and Sam about me and Sam played rugby against each other. I remember the first time I played against him, I was playing for that local team in Bath, and he was captain of Clumpton Rugby Club, local.
Hmm.
And knew him around the gyms area. Sam did some jiu-jitsu while I was doing some MMA for a bit. Got to know him there, and we ended up. I don't know how this happens, but for mental health awareness, we did a piggyback marathon. So yeah, so we were talking about piggybacking each other, yeah, to raise money. Like, and it was
Right.
we
Okay.
got the conversation when, how far do you reckon we should go? Well, to raise eyebrows, we should probably do a marathon, and didn't even know if that would be possible. Kind of
Hmm.
thought maybe we'll do it over a weekend and have a camp
Right.
out overnight and a dip in the sea, or and so I'll talk about this quickly because it's quite a cool story. But we started training on the first day. We went down to Carrick Street, down to the playing fields down there, and we worked out. We managed 3 miles, and I couldn't walk for 3 days. I swear to God, yeah, lower back, feet, arms, biceps, because you're having to hold on to someone on your back. It's just
Hmm.
I can specialize. If anyone wants to do any piggyback training, I've done it. So
There's a
yeah,
whole new niche on Instagram and TikTok.
piggyback, yeah. That's it, man. Piggyback marathon. We think it's the only one that's ever been done. So it's technically an unofficial world record. We're both
Right.
108 kilos as well. So it's not
Hmm.
like, two average guys. So it was a big thing for me, and we'll go on to my mental health in a bit. I've worked a lot online. Sam
Hmm.
helps people with theirs. We did something quite special, which we ended up doing in a day. Took us 40 and a half hours. Um, and that created, we spent a lot of time on each other's backs and a lot of time training for it, etc. And we kind of got talking about doing something together. So my speciality is a PT, a speciality of working with kids with autistic teenagers, etc., and putting something together to help improve their lives. So we sat down, had a think. We wanted to add in some because these kids are basically facing challenges in school. Like I've even said, like I wasn't big on the classroom myself. I'm more of a doer, and I think there's more way to learn than in the classroom, and not everyone could be engaged in the classroom. And I think a lot of the kids that I've worked with, from my own experience in the last 6 months, feel the same. It's finding the right environment for these kids to pick things up. And obviously the other things that they struggle with in school, the sensory aspect of things. Working in the gym with them, even like, if the music's too loud, some of them are just a bit, we need, we have to find the right place for it. And we managed to at PFP, where I was PTing for a while, 2017 to 2021-ish. Guy called James Buckingham, Father Gaines, shout out. It's got really nice quiet setting there. So we decided that we'd trial it by working in. Sam had a like a I'm not trying to find the right word for it. He had some connections with work, so we put out some advertising and got some interest back. And the idea that we'd kind of help these kids get fitter, stronger, healthier, all the kind of stuff you would with a normal PT client, but also really kind of hone in on the social aspect of it. Because a lot of the lads that I've worked with and a couple of girls as well, struggle with school, struggle making friends. The bullying aspect that comes in. A lot of the kids have had that kind of reception as well. So a
Yes.
safe place where these guys can come, they can talk about what's going on in their life, what they're finding. And this happened on the last course, which was magical. It's just like kids relate into struggles that they're having in school whilst learning how to exercise and talk about what can we do to be a little bit healthier next week. It's as simple stuff. Just bring some water to the session. Yeah, I mean, week 1, bought any water? Next time, bring water. Next week, they go, water. Been drinking more water, Pete. 8 glasses a day. Wicked. And they'll latch onto it, and it's just real powerful. Again, God's work, man, like real powerful stuff. So we're just about to start our 3rd round of workshops. And what we tend to do, we get some, if someone's in brand new, we do a bit of an assessment. We might get me and Sam working with 2 kids in the gym, sort of 1-to-1, but was both there. And we'll have like integration question mark at the end, see how they're getting on, and then do a partner thing to finish. And then we go from that to then they'll do a partner week together. And then we might put 2 twos together. And then all of a sudden we've got 4 kids training together, and by the end of the course, we try and bring everyone together for an hour and like sort of more of a social aspect. And what we're seeing is, I mean, a couple ago, I think we've got 3 guys now that by themselves are going to the gym, which is huge outside of our project. They wouldn't have done that before. We got people eating better. One of our lads put on in about 4 months about 10 kilograms.
Wow.
It's just it was getting I spoke to his mum. The doctors were really worried. He was so underweight, etc. Just did a bit of a diet plan for him, told him that it's actually all right to eat, you can have pizza and chicken. What do you like? Okay, you like pizza. Well, do you like chicken? We'll put some chicken on your pizza and we'll make it into like a protein pizza. Well, I can eat pizza. Like, yeah, that's fine. Like, go lift, eat some pizza, eat some chicken, and you know what? It works. Just fine, it's been just really powerful. We're hoping to take it to kind of schools and SEN side of sectors and schools and colleges. It's probably going to be the next academic year.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things you kind of set up and go, right, we'll do that now. But it just always takes a few months longer. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
That's
loving
awesome.
the work though, loving that work. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, anyone that might listen to this or watch this who does have a neurodivergent teenager, what would be your recommendations as those very first steps? If they are a little bit shy and introverted and lacking confidence, what would be your first? Because not everyone's going to come and find you, sadly. So, what do you think would be the first few steps they might take with their children to go, right? Okay, let's try and get you doing X, Y, and Z for your betterment of yourself. What do you think would be the first few good steps to take?
In terms of getting involved in
To
exercise
bring
or
up, yeah,
anything.
like I said, to get to start to realize the benefit, like you've seen with your people that are doing your workshops. If they've got a teenager and they can't necessarily come to you, which I'd like to think you could open up a big program nationally, but between now and then, anyone who might listen to this who goes, yeah, we've got a boy or a daughter that's autistic or who has got some sort of issues. How might they go about using exercise to further their quality of life and their confidence?
Depends on what level kind of they're at. If they're completely sedentary, it's just trying to find something that lights the fire of it, I think. And like it might
Right.
just be something as simple as going out and walking and things like that, or finding some kind of home equipment,
Hmm.
It's a tough one because for me, my experience, obviously the kids have been kind of filtered through Sam's system. So like for me, that connection was already there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? For me, I would say suggest it. Number one, you know, and it just really depends on the individual, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? But again, I think it is very important that, and especially if the kids in question are sedentary, that something does get done and it is put forward, because if it's one of those things where a lot of these kids wouldn't be doing it if they hadn't tried it and it
Right.
wasn't
Yes.
put forward to them. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things where you might go out and say there's something on the menu and you go, oh no, that's not for me. How do you know? I haven't tried it. Well, how do you know it's not for you?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So at least present the opportunity to be going out and doing that kind of stuff. I think there are some local charities around as well that can be contacted by. I should know, and I should have our company email address to hand.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we wrap this up, I'll give you time to do a shout out for all your social media and contacts and all that. But what I can do before I put it on YouTube, because I won't do it today on the day recording, if you
Mm.
send me those links or anything else you want done, I'll put in the text of the YouTube caption.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I love that.
All right, we'll do that, buddy.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, bud. So moving on from that, because you and I obviously have known each other outside of this podcast,
Yeah,
let's talk mental health because
sure.
I've gone through my own battles and struggles in my past.
Yeah, yeah.
Leaving the military, which is I joined at
Mm,
18, I left at 27, so I was nearing 30, and I had to
mm,
start a whole new life. That was something I had to overcome. In recent history, I had to get over, well, I had to process and get over the failure of my marriage, which caused me to lose my business, my home. I had to emigrate back to the UK. So I've had my struggles, and I understand the processes that I've been through and friends of mine. You've got your own experience and journey. And we all know how important it is to address your personal mental health.
mm.
So I'm going to let you talk about yours and how you've gone about your own recovery.
Sure. All right, cool. God help me. So, yeah, I mean, mental health, it's a hot topic, isn't it? And we're in the wellness industry,
Yes.
my fitness business has never been about the superficial things. And, just as a trainer, like trying to deal with people's psychology is probably the most difficult bit, and I think a part of that is understanding my own has really kind of at least helped me to, if not understand, then signpost people because I've
Hmm.
been through that process myself in terms of therapy and a lot of what you call soul searching and self work. And yeah, I've had to make some big changes in my life. I spoke about my dad. Dad was an alcoholic. I should say he was a athlete in his heyday.
Hmm.
But things took over, and it's a very. I used to think it was like a monkey see, monkey do sort of thing. Like he used to give me drink quite young. He didn't live with us, but yeah, as things progressed, I always liked to drink. And I've taken in my time. I'm just gonna say it because I'll be transparent. It's all right, recreational drugs, and but there became a point. Um, for me, and to be fair, like I had inclinings of things when I was a bit younger. I think the first time I was like, am I doing this a bit too much? Was when I was sort of like 22, 23, around that time in London. Had a bit of a breakdown and came home before I went out to the States and just kind of buried it. It was just a blip, whatever. Um, I actually went to a fellowship meeting at that point before I went out, and I was like, nah, I'm not like these people. It's fine. I've got a bright future ahead of me.
Hmm.
Um, and it wasn't actually until a bit of time when I was actually out in the States and we got drug tested out there, right? So I was flying away from things and felt this kind of weird fear. Sort of the way I'm gonna put it, like I was just kind of deep down, like something was going on, but I didn't want to talk about it. I was like, I think I need counseling, but I was in such like a kind of like an alpha environment. Everyone was like, pro athletes coming from from different styles of sports. NBA, NFL, All American wrestlers, Golden Glove boxers. Ex Olympians. Like, no, I'm all right. I'll be all right. And then kind of came home. And funny thing about our industry is that I could always look like I was all right. You know what I mean? On
Hmm.
the old Instagram, and life's good, and look at everything positive I'm doing. And let's be real, like I did a lot of positive stuff. And, my heart was in the right place. It was just when it came to me, I wasn't that empathetic. There's a lot of self sabotage going on behind the scenes, and I was making good money for a long time, but blowing a lot of it. And almost like in secret. It's not even like you know. And it was really pandemic year was kind of like this the kind of pinnacle for me because it was like I started doing Zoom PT. because I had to, you know what I mean? Like, I just got to
Yes.
make this work for me and my clients. Fear, again, come in. I need to make money. And it was whatever my clients had at home, I tried to make that work. And it was a lot of eccentric work, carrying to, do you know what I mean? Like 8-second downward phases on a, I did that
Right.
for like 10 days. I started to go stir crazy. So I started, I'd be there at 5 in the afternoon doing my last PT, but I'd be drinking beer out of a plastic cup. I just started to, and then I started to take more heavier, harder things. And very, very quickly, I was in trouble, man. I was in trouble.
Hmm.
And I knew that I was. Um, so I ended up checking into rehab um, in September 2020. So this is how long it's taken to sort myself out, because I'm only actually in about 10 days completely clean and sober for 6 months. So it's taken me a while to get this. It's just actually, out of everything I've done, considering, like we talked about WWE tryouts, very demanding thing. I won an unlicensed belt in white collar boxing, looking at going professional. I played England colleges rugby. This has been the hardest thing for me to achieve, hands down.
Hmm.
Is just like a decent bit of clean time. And I really had to turn myself inside out, and thank God, I've found a 12-step fellowship that works for me. Rehab kind of educated me and took me away from real life for a bit. Problem is that if you don't really want it, you get put back into the real world. All the temptations, all the stress, all the work, all the things, all the resentment, all that, builds up, and I hadn't really learned how to deal with that. So alongside that, and about 3 grand's worth of therapy, you know what I mean? But it's saved me a lot more in the long run, and it's
Hmm.
one of those things when it comes down to like issues like that, like how is it affecting me physically? How is it affecting me socially? How is it affecting my relationships? It just cleaned me out, man. It just absolutely cleaned me out. Working through last year, I had points where last year was a weird one for me because I did quite a lot of boxing, but I just have these like 1 day events where I just lose my head, pick up a drink, and I'll be gone for 24 hours, and I come back and be all right for 2, 3 months. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I've got more consistent. Um, but yeah, it's honestly, dude, it's been real tough, and I think probably the message for me to send it out to other people is like there is with addiction in itself, whatever the drug, alcoholism, addiction it's all actually from the same book. If you get into your 12-step recovery, it's all written from the same book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there is a solution. But you just got to be willing to do some work, get honest, find some form of power greater than yourself to take away your issues, because I tried to do it my own way for a very long time.
Hmm.
And I've had to find my own conception of God. I've had to find a new network of people that are like-minded and that understand me. Amongst all the emotional stuff I've done with my therapist, and kind of like rooted through like finding out who I am. And it's one of those things like I read this memes are everywhere about social media, but like it said like I saw one that was like, to understand the enemy, first you need to know yourself, and
Hmm.
that's very much how I am. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to this sort of stuff. And I just for me, I have a complete understanding that I kind of have an allergy to drugs and alcohol, and that the only way that I can keep myself on the tracks is to just do none, because it sets off an allergic reaction, basically. I can't just
Right.
have a glass of wine on a Sunday with a roast. You know what I mean? If I did have that, I might be able to do it once, but then my head would start getting this obsession, it starts to manifest, and I'm not
Hmm.
present. You know what I mean? And yeah, my head deceives me. My head lies to me about this sort of thing. It tells me that it'll be different this time, or I can control it this time. But trust me, after a few trials that went wrong, I just come to learn and know that, and I need to maintain this as well. I like it's an ongoing thing for me. Like I will get sick in the head again if I don't maintain the things that I'm doing to keep myself physically, mentally, spiritually, financially a lot better off.
Right.
Uh, so I'm a constant work in progress, is my experience. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm basically following a 12-step fellowship program, and I practice some principles, some spiritual
Hmm.
principles. Um, and I try to do them in all of my affairs as much as I can, you know. And a lot of it stems from just like not being selfish, trying to help other people, trying to get closer to God, and yeah, just well, number one, staying sober. But yeah, that's my background, and yeah, anything you want
Yeah.
to ask me on that, that's my outline anyway. But yeah,
Well, to be
great.
honest, buddy, congratulations on pushing this far sober. Well done.
Thank you, thank you.
And it's interesting here you say about the whole, it's taking, this long to, you had to want to recover. I remember years ago listening to a podcast with Steve-O from Jackass,
Yeah, yeah,
and he was saying that the first few times someone took him, well-meaning, to rehab, he did the same thing as you. He popped his head and he went, "No, not for me."
mm,
And he said he was told sometime later when he did successfully go through it, rehab only works if you want to be rehabilitated.
100%,
And he said, I knew that from the off. I knew that if I walked in there, I would, if I stuck it out, I'd be like, "Meh, this is pointless because I'm going to do exactly the same shit when I walk out the door."
hmm, yeah,
So, like you said, you need to, and I've experienced it, not through the same issues as you exactly, but you can't make amends to yourself mentally or emotionally until you realize you need to.
yeah,
It's very daft. I mean, I assumed, again, sticking with my recent history, I assumed when I moved back to the UK, having my hand forced as it was, I bounced back before. I'd do the same again. And a friend of mine who'd moved back here a few years before me spoke to me and said, "It'll take you a year, easily." I was like, "No, bollocks. I've moved countries before. I've set up businesses. It doesn't take that long to get off your feet." And I just found months and months went by. I couldn't do anything. I mean, I found a job that I'm just doing. It's just a job. It's not anything I have great love for to make, to pay the bills. But I couldn't get started. I'd sit in front of a laptop to write scripts for content, and I still not film them because I've not been on the internet or anything like that for the last 7 or 8 months. I killed it. I had to give myself some headspace. But I realized the biggest thing I had to do for my own mental health, I had to, someone said to me, it's probably the most concise way to deal with divorce I've ever heard. You have to grieve your marriage. You have to grieve your relationship. If you lose something that you love, whatever it is. And I thought, that's probably the most brilliant way I can deal with what I've got to go through right now. And that's been what's helped. I had to realize it wasn't my fault. I couldn't stop it. Now you have to deal with it. Now
yeah,
you've got to reach out and build good friendships. Now you've got to take care of yourself. Get your ass to the gym, because that's, as guys especially, we benefit from our own headspace by basic physical activity. We really, really do. And I know that, and you know that. But
yeah.
sometimes we hold ourselves back. We just sit on the sofa, we sort of scratch ourselves and go, "Nah, fuck it."
Yeah, 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 and I find it a lot. I hear in the room, so to speak, like people have traumatic things happen to them. It might be when they're younger or whatever that they kind of blame their addiction on that, and it's because this happened
Hmm.
or that happened, and I'm miserable. La, la. But at some point, you choose to become a victim, and you
Right.
have to do something to trudge yourself. Like it's your choice after a while, just to keep reliving, that headspace. And yeah, that kind of what you said about being ready to be rehabilitated, and we say like we call it like the surrender. You have to
Hmm.
surrender to it eventually, and but if you think about the time of surrender is to come over to the winning side. You know what I
Right.
mean? In terms of that is that's how it is in recovery. Like you got to be ready, you got to be willing. Um, but what are the other options for and it's hospitals, jails, institutions,
Hmm.
prisons? Because man, like it was going that way. It was going that
Right.
way. Um, so in just terms of probably some tragic accident, do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's pretty bad. So, but there's, like you say, there are solutions, but we need to take action because if we don't make
Yes.
changes, nothing changes. You know what? And that's it.
Yeah,
If you
I
do it, you get it. If you don't do it,
totally agree with
you
you on that
don't
one.
get it. So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Come on.
literally only seen
Uh,
in the last few days, there's a charity been launched in the UK, which is, I think, it's been set up by a bunch of ex-Special Forces military personnel,
mm,
and it's aimed at helping ex-forces personnel out of their mental health problems, but also as men, we don't get a lot of help with our own emotional issues. We know that, that's
sure.
a thing. But it's
Yeah.
very, very common for people that leave the military to end up on the wrong side of mental health
Mm,
diagnosis or even prison because they have issues that don't get realized and acknowledged. And the path that it leads them down, they end up incarcerated. Even Ant Middleton, the guy who set up SAS, who does
that's it.
Windsor TV
Yeah.
series,
Yeah. Mhm.
he came out and his manifestation of his personal invincibility and his mindset meant he got into so many fights, and eventually he got collared for one and got sent to prison
Mm.
because he thought, "Oh, I'm still this guy who's super trooper in the military. I can do and be whoever I want." He couldn't process the transition, and that led him down a very dark path. So this
Mm.
charity's just been launched in the last week. Obviously, that's not everybody's situation, but like you said, we do have to deal with all aspects of mental health, regardless of what the issues might be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, confronting it's the thing, and it's not easy.
No,
It's not easy. It's not been easy, and it's not been a quick fix at all.
no.
So I'm still
But
learning.
thankfully, I'm very glad, and I'm sure your missus is, lovely as Frankie is, that
Hmm.
you've gone down this path. You found the right place to be at. You're approaching that period, that pinnacle of sobriety, and everything's going well with your business. So all was good.
All is well, happy, healthy. Keep pressing the road, man.
That's
You know
good.
what I
That's
mean?
good. I say, and we've got
Yeah,
7 weeks until this fight that I want to see you have a
yeah.
fantastic
Still
result in.
happy, still healthy, hopefully, man, as
Yeah,
well. So
absolutely. All right,
that's it.
but we have literally gone a full hour, and it's been
I know.
fantastic. I'm so
I love
glad
it.
we've got the chance to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
I'll say goodbye to you properly when we stop recording, but for right now, please, your social media, business links, where can people find you in the gym, everything and anything you want to plug, please go for it.
All right. Well, anything I want to plug, just if you guys want to follow me up on Instagram, I'm Pete.Howard101. The Mind Muscle Connection, if anyone, what I'll do is I'll just send you the link for that to pop in at the bottom, the
Sure,
email.
yeah, I'll put it on YouTube and social media.
That's me,
Absolutely.
man. Like, yeah, if anyone wants to talk, and especially in terms of that recovery stuff, if anyone's, knows anyone that's struggling or needs some help, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to talk about that in person. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll leave it there, man. I'm more than happy. I didn't do this for any sort of gain, really. It was just, come on, have a chat, and that's all
Yeah.
good, man. Hopefully, yeah, some people enjoyed it. So,
Well,
yeah,
again, thank you
love
very
that.
much, buddy. It's been a real pleasure.
Good. Thank you, Rich.
All right, buddy. I said I'll
Cool,
say
dude.
goodbye to you in a second. But for now, everybody, I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. And there'll be another episode coming up very soon.